Never mess with someone's court-ordered property modifications, especially when you're an HOA with too much power and not enough common sense. Homeowners associations, or HOAs, are supposed to maintain property values and keep neighborhoods looking nice. That's what they tell you when you buy a house in their community, anyway. But sometimes, these organizations go way too far, turning from helpful neighborhood monitors into power-hungry dictators with nothing better to do than harass their neighbors. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about an HOA that learned this lesson the hard way when they messed with the wrong homeowner's court-ordered property modifications. Meet Alex. Alex is a regular person who bought a house in a nice suburban neighborhood with an active HOA. Like many people, Alex didn't think much of the HOA rules when moving in. They seemed reasonable enough. No purple houses, no junk cars in the yard, basic stuff to keep the neighborhood looking decent. Alex figured as long as they kept their lawn mowed and their house in good repair, they wouldn't have any issues. But Alex had a unique situation that the HOA didn't account for. A few years before buying the house, Alex had suffered a serious workplace injury that left them with permanent mobility issues and specific medical needs. After a lengthy legal battle, Alex had reached a settlement with their former employer that included court-ordered modifications to their home. These modifications included wheelchair ramps, grab bars in the bathroom, and specific signage, stickers, essentially, that needed to be displayed on the windows and doors of the house. These stickers weren't decorative. They weren't Alex's personal choice or some kind of artistic expression. They were mandated by a court of law as part of a settlement related to Alex's disability and workplace injury. The stickers were designed to alert emergency responders to specific medical conditions and accessibility needs in the home. For example, one sticker indicated that the resident had mobility issues and might need assistance evacuating in an emergency. Another sticker noted that there was medical equipment in the home that required electricity to function. These weren't just suggestions. They were legally required notifications that could save Alex's life in an emergency situation. When Alex moved into the neighborhood, they had been upfront about their situation. During the home buying process, they provided the HOA with documentation about the court-ordered modifications, including the stickers. The HOA at the time acknowledged this and made a note in Alex's file that these modifications were exempt from the usual signage restrictions. Everything seemed fine, for a while at least. About 6 months after Alex moved in, the neighborhood held its annual HOA board election. Several longtime board members were stepping down, and new members were elected to replace them. One of these new members was a woman named Karen Thompson. Karen was a recent retiree who had moved to the neighborhood a few years earlier. She was a widow with grown children who lived out of state, and she had quickly developed a reputation among the neighbors as someone who was very particular about how things should be done. Karen took her role on the HOA board very seriously. Some might say too seriously. Almost immediately after being elected, she began patrolling the neighborhood with a clipboard, looking for violations of the community's rules and regulations. She measured grass height, checked for unauthorized paint colors, and kept detailed notes on anything she deemed out of place. One sunny afternoon in early spring, Karen was making her rounds when she came across Alex's house. She stopped dead in her tracks when she saw the stickers on the front door and windows. To Karen, these stickers were an abomination. They violated the community's strict guidelines about signage, which prohibited any signs or stickers on the exterior of homes except for small, tasteful house numbers and security company signs. Never mind that the stickers were small, professional-looking, and placed in unobtrusive locations. Never mind that they serve an important medical purpose. To Karen, they were ugly, they were against the rules, and they had to go. The next day, Alex came home from work to find a bright orange violation notice taped to their front door. The notice, printed on official HOA letterhead, cited unapproved signage on residents as the violation. It stated that Alex had 7 days to remove the stickers or face fines of $100 per day until the violation was corrected. Alex was confused and frustrated. They had already explained the situation to the HOA when they moved in. They had provided documentation showing that these stickers were court-ordered and medically necessary. How could this be happening now? The next morning, Alex called the HOA office and asked to speak with someone about the violation notice. They were transferred to Karen, who had apparently appointed herself as the enforcement officer for the community. "Hello, this is Karen Thompson with the HOA," she said in a clipped, businesslike tone. "How can I help you?" Alex explained the situation, reminding Karen that the stickers were court-ordered and that they had already provided documentation about this when they moved in. "I'm sorry," Karen replied, her tone making it clear that she wasn't sorry at all, "but I don't see any exemption in our community guidelines for court-ordered signage. The rules are clear. No unauthorized signs or stickers on the exterior of homes. Those stickers need to come down, or you'll be fined $100 per day until they do." Alex tried to reason with her, explaining that removing the stickers could have serious implications. "These aren't just decorative stickers," Alex said, trying to keep their voice calm. "They're there to alert emergency responders to my medical needs. If there's a fire or a medical emergency, those stickers could save my life. I literally can't remove them. I'm legally required to have them." Karen was unmoved. "Well, I don't care what some court said," she replied coldly. "This is our community, and we have standards to maintain. Those stickers are ugly and against our community guidelines. They need to come down, period." Alex was stunned by Karen's callousness. But they're medically necessary," Alex stammered. "I have a disability. These stickers are part of the accommodations. I need to live safely in my home." "Everyone has something," Karen said dismissively. "We can't make exceptions for every person who claims they need special treatment." Where does it end? Next thing you know, people will be putting up all sorts of ugly signs and claiming they're medically necessary. We have to draw the line somewhere, and we're drawing it at your stickers. After hanging up with Karen, Alex was fuming. They couldn't believe that someone could be so heartless and inflexible. But they also knew that they needed to handle this situation carefully. Those stickers weren't optional. They were legally required, and removing them could put Alex at risk. The next day, Alex contacted a lawyer who specialized in HOA disputes and disability law. The lawyer, Maria Rodriguez, reviewed Alex's case, including the court order mandating the stickers, and agreed to take the case. "This is a clear violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act," Maria told Alex during their initial consultation. "HOAs are required to make reasonable accommodations for residents with disabilities, and they can't enforce their rules in a way that interferes with court-ordered modifications." Maria sent a formal letter to the HOA, explaining the situation in detail. The letter included copies of the court order requiring the stickers, as well as documentation of Alex's disability and medical needs. It also cited relevant federal and state laws, including the ADA and the Fair Housing Act, which prohibit discrimination against people with disabilities. The letter was firm but professional. It requested that the HOA immediately rescind the violation notice and acknowledge in writing that the stickers were exempt from the community signage restrictions due to their court-ordered and medically necessary nature. The HOA board, except for Karen, seemed to understand the seriousness of the situation when they received Maria's letter. At their next meeting, they discussed the matter at length. The board president, a reasonable man named Robert, pointed out that not only were they potentially violating federal law, but they were also opening themselves up to a lawsuit that could cost the association thousands of dollars. "Look," Robert said to the board, "I understand Karen's concerns about the appearance of the neighborhood, but we're talking about someone's health and safety here. These stickers aren't just for decoration. They serve an important purpose, and they're required by a court order. We can't just ignore that." Karen, however, was furious. "This is ridiculous," she insisted, her voice rising with anger. "We can't let one person ruin the look of our neighborhood just because they have some medical condition. Where does it end? Next thing you know, people will be putting up all sorts of ugly signs and claiming they're medically necessary. We have to maintain standards here." Another board member, a retired teacher named Susan, tried to reason with Karen. "But Karen, this isn't just about aesthetics. This is about following the law and doing what's right. Alex has a right to these accommodations. We could get in serious trouble if we try to interfere with a court order." Karen wouldn't budge. "Rules are rules," she insisted. "If we make an exception for one person, we have to make exceptions for everyone. It's a slippery slope." Despite Karen's objections, The rest of the HOA board voted to drop the violation and acknowledge that the stickers were exempt from the community's signage restrictions. They sent Alex a letter confirming that the violation notice was rescinded and that no further action would be taken regarding the stickers. Alex thought that was the end of it. They received the letter from the HOA and breathed a sigh of relief. The stickers would stay, and they wouldn't have to fight with the HOA anymore. Or so they thought. But Karen wasn't done. She was furious that the board had overruled her, and she was determined to have her way. She began complaining to other neighbors about Alex's stickers, trying to rally support for her position. She told anyone who would listen that the HOA was letting the neighborhood go to hell by allowing ugly stickers on people's houses. Most neighbors ignored Karen or politely disagreed with her. They understood that Alex's situation was different and that the stickers serve an important purpose. But a few, particularly those who were already inclined toward Karen's way of thinking, began to agree with her. Soon, a small faction of residents was grumbling about the special treatment Alex was receiving. Karen saw this as an opportunity. At the next HOA meeting, she brought up the issue again, this time with a petition signed by about a dozen residents demanding that the board enforce the community's signage rules uniformly. "The people of this community have spoken," Karen announced proudly, waving the petition in the air. "They want our neighborhood to look nice, and they don't want to see ugly stickers all over people's houses. We need to revisit this decision and enforce our rules." The board was tired of the issue and wanted to move on. They voted again, and again they decided to allow Alex's stickers, citing the legal advice they had received. But this time, Karen was more vocal in her opposition. "You're making a mistake," she warned the board. "Mark my words, this is going to come back to haunt us. We're setting a dangerous precedent here." The board ignored her warning and moved on to other business. But Karen was seething. She felt that the board had betrayed the community by caving to what she saw as special interests. In her mind, she was the only one standing up for the neighborhood's values. What happened next shocked everyone, even those who knew Karen well. She decided to take matters into her own hands. A few weeks after the contentious HOA meeting, Alex was scheduled to attend a weekend conference for work. They packed their bags on Friday afternoon and headed out of town, not realizing that Karen had been watching their house, waiting for just such an opportunity. On Saturday morning, Karen saw Alex leave for the conference and knew she had her chance. She went to her garage and retrieved a scraper, a bottle of adhesive remover, and a bucket of soapy water. Then, she walked purposefully toward Alex's house, looking around to make sure no one was watching. Karen approached Alex's front door and began scraping off the stickers. She worked methodically, removing every trace of the stickers from the door and windows. She even went so far as to clean off the residue with the adhesive remover and soapy water, leaving no trace that the stickers had ever been there. When she was finished, Karen stood back and admired her work. The house looked so much better without those ugly stickers, she thought. She had done the neighborhood a favor. What Karen didn't realize was that Alex had a comprehensive security system, including cameras that recorded everything that happened around the house. Every moment of Karen's vandalism was captured in high-definition video. Alex returned home late Sunday evening, tired from the conference, but looking forward to sleeping in their own bed. As they approached their house, something seemed off. It took them a moment to realize what was wrong. The stickers were gone. At first, Alex thought maybe they had fallen off. But upon closer inspection, it was clear they had been deliberately removed. There were faint marks where the stickers had been, and the areas around the door and windows looked cleaner than the rest of the house, as if someone had recently scrubbed them. Alex's heart sank. This wasn't just a violation of HOA rules. This was tampering with court-ordered property modifications, and it could have serious consequences. Without those stickers, if there was an emergency, responders wouldn't know about Alex's specific medical needs and accessibility requirements. This wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a potential safety hazard. The next morning, Alex called their lawyer, Maria, and explained what had happened. Maria was shocked and immediately advised Alex to file a police report for property damage and tampering with court-ordered modifications. "This is serious," Maria told Alex. "Whoever did this could face criminal charges, not just civil liability. We need to act quickly." Alex contacted the local police department and filed a report. The officers who responded were sympathetic, especially when Alex explained the medical necessity of the stickers. They advised Alex to check their security footage to see if the vandalism had been captured on camera. Alex reviewed the footage from their security system, and what they saw made their blood boil. There was Karen, clear as day, approaching their house with tools in hand, methodically removing every single sticker. The video showed her looking around furtively, clearly aware that she was doing something wrong. With this evidence in hand, Alex contacted Maria again, who sent a demand letter to the HOA, detailing Karen's actions and the video evidence. The letter demanded that the HOA take immediate action against Karen and that they pay for the replacement of the stickers and any associated costs. The HOA board was shocked when they received the letter. They called an emergency meeting and confronted Karen with the evidence. At first, Karen denied it, claiming she had been at home all weekend and that Alex was just trying to cause trouble. "I don't know what you're talking about," she insisted, her face turning red. "I would never do something like that. This is just an attempt to make me look bad because I've been trying to uphold our community standards." But when Robert, the board president, showed her the still images from the security footage, clear, high-definition images that left no doubt about her identity, Karen's defiance crumbled. She broke down in tears, admitting what she had done. "I was just trying to improve the neighborhood," she cried, her voice trembling. "Those stickers were so ugly. I didn't think it was a big deal. I just wanted the house to look nice like all the other houses in the neighborhood." The board members were horrified. Not only had Karen potentially exposed them to legal liability, but she had committed a crime. They immediately voted to remove Karen from the board and sent a formal apology to Alex. But Alex wasn't satisfied with just an apology. Karen had committed a crime, and Alex wanted to make sure she faced the consequences. With Maria's guidance, Alex filed a civil lawsuit against Karen personally, as well as against the HOA for failing to properly supervise their board member. The lawsuit sought damages for property damage, emotional distress, and legal fees. It also asked the court to enforce the original court order requiring the stickers and to issue a new order preventing the HOA from interfering with court-ordered modifications in the future. The case went to court, and Alex won decisively. The judge was particularly harsh on Karen, noting that her actions were not only illegal, but showed a willful disregard for the law and for Alex's medical needs. "Your actions were not just a violation of HOA rules," the judge told Karen. "They were a violation of a court order and a potential threat to the plaintiff's health and safety. This court takes such matters very seriously." Karen was ordered to pay significant damages to Alex, including the cost of replacing the stickers, compensation for emotional distress, and all court costs and legal fees. The total came to nearly $50,000, a substantial sum that would take Karen years to pay off. The HOA was also held liable, though to a lesser extent. The court found that while the HOA board had acted appropriately once they were made aware of the situation, they had failed in their duty to properly supervise Karen and prevent her from taking matters into her own hands. The HOA was ordered to pay $10,000 in damages and to implement new training for board members about disability accommodations and legal compliance. As for the stickers, Alex got new ones, this time with an added note explaining that they were court-ordered and that tampering with them would result in legal consequences. The HOA was also ordered to send a notice to all residents explaining the situation and reminding them not to interfere with court-ordered modifications. The story became something of a legend in the neighborhood. Karen, once a vocal and active member of the community, became a pariah. Neighbors who had once listened to her complaints now avoided her in the street. Within a few months, she put her house up for sale and moved away, reportedly to a community without an HOA where she couldn't harass her neighbors. And the HOA? They learned a valuable lesson about overstepping their authority and respecting legal requirements, especially when it comes to disability accommodations. They implemented new training programs for board members, revised their rules to be more explicit about accommodating court-ordered modifications, and even hired a consultant to review their policies and ensure compliance with disability laws. For Alex, the experience was stressful and unpleasant, but it had a positive outcome. Not only did they win their case and receive compensation for what they had been through, but they also helped bring about positive change in their community. The HOA became more understanding and accommodating, not just for Alex, but for other residents with disabilities as well. This story serves as an important reminder that HOAs exist to serve the community, not to rule over it with an iron fist. Rules and regulations are important for maintaining property values and community standards, but they must be applied reasonably and with respect for individual rights and circumstances. And when those rules conflict with legal requirements, especially those related to disability accommodations, the law always takes precedence. If you have your own HOA horror story, share it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.